All right, let's go.
Welcome to the Tar and Feather Podcast. Here are your hosts, Mustached Vet and Ganglion Cortex.
Well, hello, fellas.
What's up?
Gentlemen.
Welcome to Tar and Feather Podcast. I'm Mustache Vet. With me is Ganglion Cortex. We have a returning guest, Danny Schnacky, our brother from the 10th Mountain Division. How are you, Danny?
Let's go. I'm doing really good. How are you guys doing?
Terrific.
Pretty good.
Terrific. It's
It's
bright
Friday.
future. It's Friday. The air smells cheaper.
They're still counting ballots in Arizona.
Yep.
Hopefully,
might never
next
end.
time that won't be the same issue. Because
I'm
that is
I'm
an abomination.
surprised.
14 days. It should never take 14 days. They did it in less time in 1864 than they do in 2024.
Yeah, and they had to do it by Pony Express.
Yeah, Wells Fargo was out there collecting them.
Yeah.
To be
that
trusted
other-
fully. Wells Fargo.
They were having to Western Union that thing.
When you could trust Wells Fargo.
That was before what was Southern Bell before the telegram. I don't know. The telegram
Yeah.
was a thing.
Well,
I don't know.
some monopolies work out okay.
Yeah. Well, thankfully
Yeah.
we have the internet. Alexander Graham Bell with the telephone and stuff. You know, it's all great. We're just spitting some stuff out here. I don't know. So, anyways,
sending ones and zeros across the wire here. Let's go.
yeah. So, like I said, bright future. From our perspective, we see a brighter future. The establishment got their teeth knocked in again for a second time in 8 years. So, I just want to. The thing is with the establishment, the media, everything, just perpetuating lie after lie. They deserve this. They deserve every ounce of our scrutiny. They still don't understand how it happened, or at least they're trying to pretend like they don't understand how it happened.
Oh,
They're
they're playing
either
the blame game. I mean, it's depending on who you look at, they're throwing daggers at anybody who's near. And it's not everybody, obviously, right? We're not. I know plenty of folks who are in the other camp. Strictly by means of being a mainstream media follower, and that's understandable. But it's also really something that I think people need to open their eyes to is you can't follow the mainstream media. They have a narrative to push, and they've been pushing it for a very long time. And what's encouraging, I think, if not one of the most encouraging things about this whole movement with Trump getting elected is we're showing the alternative media sources. People have sought the truth, and the majority of the country stood up and said, no, I'm not going to buy that stuff anymore. We're not going to get into this woke garbage. We're not going to have this jammed down our throat. We love people, but it's time to change this. We're not going down that path of madness.
Yeah, and so the alternative media has proven once again their position being correct, while the mainstream media's position's been proven wrong once again, and yet it all comes to pass, and then they turn around and say, we're not wrong. No, you're wrong. And then they lay the blame on the people who have decided the course of their own future.
Right.
Yeah. Or, wishing, I don't want to say ill intent, but, I've seen those folks that just kind of throw up their hands because, listen, I totally get, we've been on the other side, right? We know how it feels to not get your way, right? That's part of life. But the throwing your hands up and saying like, well, I guess we'll see. He's going to wreck a bunch of stuff, but I guess we'll find out. And like,
Yeah.
Yes, we will find out. You're right. And we are prayerfully standing in support of Trump and his administration. There's so many capable people who have crossed the aisle and joined him, which I think is a huge, huge optics are important on that, right? Pay attention. Like people
Right.
jumping ship because they're in trouble. RFK didn't have to do that, right? Elon Musk didn't have to stand up and help preserve free speech by buying X and being literally the platform that enabled this movement. Charlie Kirk didn't have to get involved with Turning Point Action and all of the folks that helped with that. I mean, there's so many things grassroots here
Right.
for people that care about this country. It's just huge.
Well,
I
yeah,
think-
and so oh, you were saying something. I'm trying to piggyback of what you're saying,
Mhm.
but I'm trying to say what you
I
said. Anyways,
do want to mention real quick. Hey, Scott Pressler needs the Freedom Medal because of his actions in Pennsylvania. He signed up a lot of people to vote, and he did a lot of groundwork on his own. And so, hey, there's people, not just him, there's people all over
Yeah.
the country that did the work without even being asked because they felt the need to do so. And so
it was either
that's the
him or
difference between
another guy
two
was going
sides.
door to door.
The other side spent $1 billion on concerts with famous people, and it did nothing because that means nothing, right? Like the disassociation between what people want. People want to be able to afford groceries, their electricity bill, and their gas bill. So
Piggybacking off of what you said, Danny, crossing the aisles and stuff. So I'm a first-time Trump voter. I didn't vote for him the first time. I voted Libertarian. I was trying to get Libertarians on the map. I was trying to get them a spot on the debate stage. I want a third party in there so bad, a third or fourth party in there so bad, so that we can get some discourse. Not two people arguing over who can control you the most or least. And we're just increasing government. We're just bloating it. So when Trump was able to go to the Libertarian Convention, they invited him. They invited Biden too. Trump went. Trump listened. He and the Libertarians were like, well, if you want our support, there's some conditions, like Ross Ulbricht, freeing him, getting him out of jail for his website in Silk Roads, right? He got in trouble for that. Whatever was going down there, it's a whole thing. If you want to look it up, look up Ross Ulbricht, Silk Roads. He's already been in jail for 10 years. He needs to be released. We've talked about Julian Assange. We've talked about Edward Snowden, right? Edward Snowden was in trouble for disclosing illegal stuff that our government was doing, what the NSA was doing on spying on us. Everything that's been perpetuated since the Patriot Act, since the Bush days. So I am not a diehard Republican. I am a libertarian at my core. So for me to cross the aisle and to swallow that I felt like it was a hard pill to swallow, to cast my vote for a Republican, even on the day of the election when I had to hit that button, it was like, I'm really doing this. And I got goosebumps. I got goosebumps because this is my first time voting for him. And with having this much behind him, Tulsi, RFK, Elon, like you were saying, all of this, they all have their individual spots. There's things I don't like about all of them. But if you put them in their key roles, they could do a lot of good. And
Pitbull.
what they're good is less government.
Yeah.
less government,
And
less
I think
bureaucracy.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just one of the things that you can't look at it on its face and say this is a conservative movement. Are there conservative aspects to it? 100%, for sure. You
Yes.
talk about pro-life, right? You talk about the anti-wokeism, right? But what I feel has happened in this country, and I think what a lot of people feel like has happened in this country is you've taken a left party, like here's center, right? You've taken a
Mhm.
left party and a right party, which is your traditional conservative and your liberal, right? And the left has gone off the map completely,
Yes.
as far left as you can possibly go on a lot of issues. And the right has swooped more centric and even left in some cases to appeal to the people. I mean, what you're seeing, in my opinion, what we're seeing here with this isn't a far right movement. This is a majority of what the American people care about movement. I mean, you can't even. I don't think that you could make an argument to say that Trump is a Republican in the traditional sense, but that just goes to show how things have moved and shifted, and who has listened to what the majority of Americans care about and who hasn't ultimately.
Right. Well, everything he's saying right now was everything Clinton was saying back in the 90s. Both Clintons, Hillary and Bill Clinton, they were saying, shut our borders down. If you're over here illegally, we're sending you back over. What was the deal with Elian Gonzalez, the Cuban that was in Florida? They raided that house. They took him out. They sent him back to Cuba, right? Wasn't that the whole debacle? There was a lawsuit on that. It had to go up the courts to figure out if that was legal or not. So, or constitutional, what have you. But the thing is, Trump's not a conservative. He is a 90s Democrat. But a lot of the stuff, like you're saying, it makes sense. As a conservative, you're making concessions. You're making a few concessions to make the government smaller. And that's what we want.
The thing is, when you make too many concessions, then you have the left coming up with their death pods, right? And you have this company making these death pods in Europe, right? But then they also can't make the pods work. And so now there's a report out that it didn't work, and the inventors strangled the first victim to death. There's these marks around their neck, and they strangled them. And so, why is that your platform? Why is your platform revolving around death and destruction? That's a key red alert to me, because the opposite is we want to better you. We want you to flourish and be here for a long time. And the other side is greenhouse gases will kill you. Too many kids are going to kill you. And too much freedom is dangerous. So these two forces are diametrically opposed to the foundational concepts of freedom.
Right. Yeah, speech will kill you. What happened
Every
to
single
Sticks and
thing
Stones?
is an issue, and it's a hazard.
Right. And if you don't affirm their feelings, that's violence. And I find that wild.
It is wild. I mean, having a disagreement didn't used to escalate to the extreme that it seems to have lately. But it's not a these issues are not mutually exclusive, right? You said it, I think, that you don't have to agree with everything that Trump stands for. His own administration doesn't agree with everything that he stands for, what he says, how he delivers it, right? That's part of us being humans, right? Trump is a human. Nobody's worshiping this man, right? All we're doing is picking the candidate that stands to have the best administration standing behind him to deliver on the issues that we care about. And just look across the board. You just named a bunch of them. I mean, oh my gosh. How could you look at this and not get excited about Elon jumping in and Tulsi and RFK Jr. and
Vivek Ramaswamy.
Vivek Ramaswamy, yeah. The new chief of staff, first female ever, breaking glass ceilings. I mean, this is exciting stuff. And
It doesn't sound like misogyny to me.
I saw a thing and it said how they've been preparing for this moment. They're not going to use the traditional methods of a transitional team set up by the Office of Personnel Management. They have their own system. And that's what tells me it's different this time because they know what they messed up last time and they're not going to repeat it. They're going to have true independent thought come in at the beginning.
Good. Yeah, and you don't want to have to just come in and fire everybody day one. That's bad optics, but that's going to have to happen at these, you guys know, we were in the military. These contracts in the military industrial complex alone showcase, I think, the mismanagement and the inefficiencies that happen at the government levels when they're that big, that bloated. And how can you not get excited about a guy like Elon potentially, right? It hasn't been, there's nothing formal around that yet, but all the speculation and all the talk thus far has been, let's make these programs work, like truly work, right? Or get rid of them because they're not serving the people. And are you going to hurt some feelings? Yes, people are scared. They don't want to lose something that they maybe planned their financial future for or banked on being there. But that's not what's even being talked about here. We're not leaving anybody high and dry. We're not pulling the carpet out from under anybody. But we are saying is, at what point in time do we take a serious look at this budget, right? And stop talking about, every few months that we're going to shut the government down unless we fund it and keep the lights on. Like, it's time to take a serious approach at, like, how can we make this thing truly work instead of just adding layers and layers and layers of oversight and management and bloating this thing. The machine's big enough.
Yep. So the Republicans, the GOP likes to argue, if we don't pass this spending bill, the left doesn't get their social programs. They don't get the money for the welfare. They don't get money for all of this stuff, which a lot of welfare goes to conservatives too. There's poor places everywhere. There's poor counties all over the United States. So to say that it's a Democrat issue is whatever. But then the left is like, well, if you don't put that in the spending bill, then you don't get your military funding. And then somehow that's a Republican talking point. And then it's just bickering. It was like, oh, you don't get funding for the VA, or you don't get funding for this, you don't get funding for that. Like, we're just tired of it. We just want it to run efficiently. We're tired of
the credit card's full.
We're tired of them stealing our money and not knowing where it goes.
Yeah, there's zero transparency in government budgeting, in spending. And I know that there's companies, there's organizations that I've applied for and as a software engineer to maybe go in and actually work on, right, being a fellow and trying to increase some transparency there. But how about this? Like, what you talked about with regard to I just lost my train of thought. One sec here. I'm going to get it back on the rails.
Mm-hmm. The bloatedness of government.
Yeah, I mean you were talking about the partisanship and how laws get passed in this country and how anything gets through the Senate and the House, right? Like, think about that. I don't think it's formally announced. I don't think it's been called or whatever, but we're soon to have the presidency, the House, and the Senate. That cannot be oversold, the importance of that, because you don't have to make all of these concessions then. You don't have to hide stuff. You don't have to say tit for tat. You can pass meaningful legislation without putting stuff in these bills and bloating them beyond, the ability to have anybody read it, right? That these guys, these lawmakers, are having their assistants and their whatever you even call them, read their bills and try to make heads or tails of it and say, are we signing this or are we not signing this?
That's true. They don't know what they're signing. It's all predetermined, and then they just put their label on it.
Well, you'll get 900-page documents, and it's like, sign this in 2 days.
Less than that. Sometimes it's
and then they'll say
12 hours.
Or
right.
Nancy Pelosi once said, you'll find out after it's passed.
After it's passed. Exactly.
That's
Well,
not
they
the
did.
way it goes.
That should be insulting to all Americans.
Well, they one of the things I think that Kamala called out in her campaign on the trail was the fact that they tried to pass legislation on the border, and somehow, far removed from the White House, Trump called in a favor or something and got it shut down. Well, if you took an actual comb through that bill, you'll realize really quickly that it was much more than just a border legislation, right? They tuck all of this extra stuff as means to say, yes, you want your border stuff, we're going to give it to you, but we want this stuff, and you're either going to pass it all together or none of it's going to pass, and it's going to look bad on you. And that's the politics that I think we're all sick of. Is why does that have to be even related at all? Right.
It's all that extra
bills.
It's all that extra pork that gets thrown in there. That's I think the term that they all use, that extra pork.
The pork is coming to an end.
Yeah, and it's, you do this for me, I do this for you, blah, blah, blah. We throw in this extra stuff. We double the spending bill. Instead of funding this one thing that's only how much was the border? The border wall the first time around? $5 billion. How much have we sent overseas? To Ukraine, Israel, or to aid to NATO,
and I would say
or whatever.
Probably closer to 130 billion because they don't include all these black projects. That they keep
how many walls? We could have a wall bigger than the Great Wall of China. We could see it in.
Well,
we could
wouldn't
touch
be
it in
using
space.
bones and skulls either.
Well, that's true, but we could be touching it from the International Space Station.
Scott, so right after Biden was elected, it was January.
Right.
I went down to the border, and it was a ghost town. The machines, the concrete plant, everything was still there. It was a ghost town, and it was kind of creepy how they were at the epicenter. They were at the apex of the hill where the cartel crawl across. And that's where they stopped them. They stopped them right at the exact point where they needed to keep going.
Yep.
And it is deliberate. I don't care what anyone says. The wall worked because it pushed them all to the extremes, to the ends.
Yeah.
And
then they
worked.
tried right as Biden, probably right when he was debating Trump, they decided, oh, hey, we figured out this migration issue all of a sudden. And that was, I believe that was going to be a talking point.
It's all planned words. And how they use the numbers.
It was a talking point for Harris.
Letting them in millions a month.
Yeah,
until
it's
9 million.
It becomes...
It's 9 million over 4 years. No, it's close to 20 to 25 million because they don't include the gotaways. The gotaways are off the chart.
Right.
There's a whole bunch of hokey pokey that they do, and they don't include that.
Yeah. Well, they decided that, hey, we're gonna do this right when we need it as a talking point for the election because Trump is going to use this against us. And they're going to say, hey, we have figured it out. We have figured it out. And guess what? The next 4 years, we have it figured out. But then she kept getting asked, but why didn't you do it the previous 3 years if you knew that would work?
But then they turn around the line and say it's not their fault. Yet there they were within the first week, and they removed his Remain in Mexico policy, build the wall in policy. They removed a whole bunch of things executively, including the energy policy and a whole bunch of other you can watch it on C-SPAN. The signing ceremony is still public. Him signing 7 executive orders each day the first week. It's like 40 executive orders in the first week, him signing them.
Well, he was proud of it. He said he's going to sign the most executive orders as president.
It's there.
And he's going to reverse everything. He's going to reverse everything that Trump did.
And I'm sorry, but
now I don't know how much he reversed. I think there's some tariffs
quite a bit, and that's That's the
that he
fault
left,
of the
but-
executive orders that the next person can come in and reverse it instantly.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. They they have way too much power. So, but
Yeah, I mean the reality with the border is that I just don't understand how you can even argue that it's some humanitarian crisis if we don't let these people in illegally. I mean, that's the whole key word there, right? We say illegal immigrants, right?
mhm.
They wanted people to stop saying illegal aliens. Fine. Don't care what you call it. They're here illegally. They're entering the country illegally. I mean, that's a problem. And at numbers that have vastly outrun anything we've seen before. I mean, that's for a
The flag
free
was up to
society.
encourage them to come in.
For a
Right.
free society and a tax-paying body of people, how can that not be an alarm? And obviously, hello, it was. And we voted and here we are. So, I mean, one of many concerns that the American people voted about.
That's true
Mhm.
because in Arizona they passed that bill at a state level, a constitutional mandate to say if you're here illegally, we're going to send you back. Local police can arrest you. You can't accept benefits on a state level. And so obviously that is a position where most people think like, hey, this is not okay. Like you're doing something wrong.
Right.
Yep, exactly. And it's
So
that's
my one big thing is with having an influx of people who are coming from different countries, right? You're having an influx of migrants. They're not being born in this country. It's not a slow progression. You're dumping these people in cities and towns that don't have the infrastructure for double the amount of people. So now you're creating more poor people in that area. Now you're making them rely more on social programs.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're able to control them. Now
Yeah,
they think that, hey, you're giving me this money, you're giving me this house to live in for 2-3 years, whatever they promise them or what have you. They're pushing the people that used to live in that town out because now they can afford the $2,000 a month rent on a house that was maybe $1,000 a month for the mortgage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're getting $2,000 a month from the government for the housing, and then they're putting six or so people in the house,
True.
or however many people, right? And then they're pushing the people out. They're making the people that were native there, they're moving them out, or they're having to find something cheaper. They're also raising the market in that whole area because now that house next to them
splitting it. Mm-hmm.
is $2,000 a month now, even, and they're selling their house, and then they're selling their house, and then they're selling their house.
Yeah. If you're concerned with splitting up family units, right, which we've heard so much when Trump had the Remain in Mexico in place and in some of his executive actions that he had in place, over 6 million of the 11 million, and I'm just taking a quick look at the numbers, so it's a generalization here. Over 6 million of the 11 million of illegal immigrants coming across are single adults. So you're either splitting family units right there, or they're coming by themselves, which even, what are we talking about then? Like, they've already split their family unit. We're doing nothing.
Right.
They don't need to be here illegally. Go through the process. That's
right.
all that's being said here. I don't understand how that's in conflict whatsoever.
Yeah, the process might be broken, but that's because of bureaucracy. That's because of the fraud, waste, and abuse that's going on.
They've been told that they can skip the line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that too.
Yeah. You fix the process, then you don't abandon ship on it and create other issues, because
you don't create some new avenue that says you can just come straight in underneath the guy. The problem is that anyone can claim asylum under any circumstance and it's never checked out. it's never backed by actual violence or circumstance. And so any person can come and say they're escaping violence, they need to claim asylum, and the Biden administration tells you open up your phone, enter this program, this app,
Mhm.
the one entry app, and then you're automatically deferred for 2 years. And they
Mhm.
know what they're doing. They know that they can just push this off into the future, and then certain states will allow you to vote without an ID, and they're going to expect you to vote their certain way. It's a long con game. It's not about today. It's not about today. And that's where they messed up, because certain states have now initiated other actions to prevent those certain same people to vote. And now even places like New York are now saying, we're not going to feed you anymore because our debit cards are maxed out. We can't do the same program. And so you have Mayor Adams in New York saying, we're going to end the debit card food program. You're going to have to come back into the kitchen. You're going to have to do the other forms of subsidization. We're not going to keep going this way. And it's
Mhm.
only because Trump won. If Trump didn't win,
Mhm.
he wouldn't be able to do that, because if he did that under a Biden administration, they would have sued him for
Mhm.
what? Degradation of rights, because these people need to have a certain food. And that's why
Right.
they built this program, is because the food they were feeding them, these people were rejecting, saying, we don't like it. And so they gave them a debit card of $375 a week, which is way more than my food allowance for my family of four. Yet these people get it for free.
Mhm.
$1,400 a month in food would make my whole budget completely different.
Right.
Yours too, right?
Oh
But
yeah,
these dudes
absolutely.
are not.
Sure.
I would love to have 3 steaks a day.
And so only because he was elected did Mayor Adams come out literally the day after and say, we're ending this program, this pilot program.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, he got what he wanted. Now he can be unpopular for the term or whatever.
Yep.
And he's not going to be unpopular because people in New York are split. It's way closer than what they want you to admit.
Yeah.
Well, they also got a dose of what Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, and Southern California
Now,
are
I'll say
going
from
through
the
right
beginning,
now.
Mayor Adams came out a long time ago and said it, and then that's when they brought up this whole indictment against him. And they
Mhm.
brought this whole, hey, you're not using your funds right, this and that. And that's because they thought they were going to have everything under control, because he was also thinking like, wow, our budget's not going to work out. We can't keep doing this.
Right.
He only took the most logical route.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
It's now putting a strain on the system and the infrastructure. So now it's come to a head. It's bursting.
Yeah.
It's bursting
Right.
at the seams. It's fat man in a little coat. That's what's going on. It's going to split right down the middle. And it's making people who live there so mad, because they can't use their civic centers. They can't use the places that they pay taxes for. They can't, because they're using it to house
There's
people
stories
that
of migrants
are here
running through
illegally.
the street and assaulting people. And then the police turn around, and there's videos of the police turn around saying,
Yeah.
we can't arrest them because
Right.
ICE won't collect them. So why would we arrest them?
It's
Where are we going to send them?
it's gonna do nothing. They go into booking and they come right
Mhm.
back out. You
Right. It's a
can't
waste of time.
you can't put them on. You can't keep them in there.
So luckily, there will be a change. We can clean up New York. We can clean up our cities, and we can clean up hometown USA, because people are hurting. You know, like inflation sucks. The price of energy sucks, regardless of what you think caused it. The petroleum reserves at basically zero. Our energy
Mhm.
costs are through the roof because we're importing energy from Venezuela or in Russia,
Mhm.
the country we're supposed to hate, right? We're supposed to hate Russia, but yet we're importing all this energy from Russia.
Mhm.
It's time to take the reins back.
For sure.
Yeah, time to go back to being energy independent. And
Mhm.
that was the basis of what Trump was running on, was being energy independent, making money here, selling stuff to other countries, not
Right.
relying
Pushing
on
it.
other countries.
hmm
We can always bring in stuff. We can't always push stuff out. We have to be able to be self-reliant and have that reserve. It's like having a savings account for your family, having, Dave Ramsey always says,
Our
always have
savings
like
account as Americans is
$10,000.
ginormous.
Yeah.
Let's use it. Let's start pushing. Let's push our wealth out into the world. Bring everyone up. Like, we don't need to succumb to their low level. Everyone else needs to
Right.
rise up.
Right. So
Energy independence sounds good. I mean,
energy independent.
we were on the way, with the strategic petroleum reserve, and obviously that got emptied out during the Biden
Yep.
administration, and now they're doing a big freak out buyback.
Yep.
Yeah, 40.
But
what is it? 40 million.
before I lose my thought though, I do want to say this.
Yes.
There's a silver lining to Trump losing that election against Biden. He wouldn't be in the position, and we wouldn't have the team that he has now.
Right.
I agree.
This is the blessing in disguise. This is a prayer that was unanswered.
It's called being faithful.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm faithful now.
Yeah.
Not just him. It's
I found
being
you guys.
faithful in the fact
Well, I'm
that
faithful to the process.
well, that's true, right? You have to accept that sometimes you've got to be Job. You've got to put your head down. You got to just go through the process.
Right.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, and now the other side of this election cycle is a little bit hilarious in regards to the Democrats asking, where are our people? Why did they not show up, to the tune of
Right.
17 million less voters? I mean, what?
It's
Where
13,
do those
13,
people at?
13 million. Because
So we were shouting
Kamala
that from the
has-
rooftops.
Yeah, Kamala has 68, maybe 69 now. Biden had over 81 million.
But it makes no
Trump
sense. Where are these
Trump
people?
has not gone up. Trump has not gone up in numbers. Trump had 74 million last time. He got about 74 million this time. He didn't go up. Now, I think a bunch of independents went over to him, because I saw the Libertarian numbers and the Green Party numbers sink. They went from 1.5% of the vote. So that's 3% right there.
Well,
if you take those two
I was
parties,
telling Brooke about this.
they dropped
It's
down to
because
0.5.
The Zuckerberg bucks disappeared because they weren't able to buy the votes. They couldn't harvest the votes. There was no money in capturing the votes and harvesting them back to the ballot box.
Right.
Otherwise, like you said, where did the 16 million votes go? Where are they?
Right.
Well, if you listen to Joy Reid,
Where are they?
Joy Reid said that the white women didn't show up and vote, and I've seen numbers that actually prove they did in a higher percentage than they did in the last election cycle. It just wasn't for your side,
Right.
But that still doesn't answer the question. It doesn't answer the question if you just look by the numbers at the voter turnout over the years. You can look back as far as you want. We've never seen a spike like we saw when Biden was president. And a lot of people will say,
No.
they'll throw their hands up and say, yeah, coronavirus, they brought the people out. Okay. Well, we're, taking that same train and running with it, where were the people this time? Because I would argue that people were much more upset this time around because of the last 4 years and the handling of the coronavirus pandemic and the forced, basically blatant manipulation of of the mainstream media and forcing people, to give up their bodily autonomy. Speaking of that, I mean, it's just amazing to me the hypocrisy of when people want to talk about the things that the right cares about, or in this case, like I said, us, whoever this big majority now of us, we're not the right, we're the normal, we're the traditional American values folks who care about their families, who care about their family's future. And that's ultimately what it boils down to.
It's true, because I have a friend who keeps saying my dad was ultra this or that, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I never heard him talk about that. Like, he always told me he was an independent. Like, and so I don't know why you think I'm XYZ, because I'm not that either. And so all I do is sit here and consciously accept all the information that's I've received over the last X amount of time and process it, as a mechanic, as a person who can see the process of operations, right? And so as a mechanic, we go through the order of operations, right? And so if there's a breakdown, you see it clearly. And that's all I can see is like the breakdown in order of operations.
Right.
And that's all I can do is convey to, well, this part is broken. The rest is fine. 75%, you're right. I agree. But the crucial part that's doing the rest of the work at 25% is gone. You need to accept that one part outweighs the other 75% because it's resting on this 25%. And so it's a whole encompassing picture. It's not just one piece. It's the whole process.
Yep. Got to start greasing the wheels.
Yeah.
Make it more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
Let the people control it. Let the market sort itself out.
Yes, sir.
The cream always rises to the top, fellas.
It certainly does.
You have to accept that it does rise to the top, though, because there's too many people that accept that no. There's another process involved, and it will never go.
Well, there's some people that just think it's just going to get sour. So.
If you don't attain it, if you don't manage it, yes.
Right.
And so they're not wrong. They're not wrong. But they also don't accept that they've done nothing.
But I mean, that's what's going on with, just money. Money is just getting thrown at stuff. And you can, the Department of Education is a prime example of money getting thrown at it and nothing getting better. Like, yeah, some people are lazy. Some parents don't put a lot of attention in their children, whether or not they're too busy or they just don't pay attention. And some people are a product of their environment. They are possibly too busy. They don't have the time. And you talk about poor parts of Baltimore. The graduation rate, the failure rate in that city is through the roof. Why? Why are these kids being left behind? Why is there no accountability in the system? Like, it's just the parents' fault. It could be. It could be the parents' fault. It mostly is. But there's also okay. Did you already leave? You sent a text.
Did you leave?
No, you sent a text.
I still see him.
I didn't want to interrupt anyone. Oh.
I'm a fan of.
I gave you a thumbs up.
I know object permanence. I still see him. He's right there.
Yeah. Your screen didn't freeze.
No, you're good. I was listening to what you were saying.
Oh, yeah. But the thing is, there's kids getting passed through these high schools in Baltimore. One kid was about to graduate and he only had like 3 credits or 10 credits or something for the 4 years that he was in high school. And they found it out in the last semester, I think last year, and they're making him go back to 9th grade. He's already 19 years old. He's 19 years old going back to freshman year of high school. Now he's having to go to a charter school and stuff like that. And he's going to try and it's so crazy. He's just getting passed through. These teachers are just shoving him through. You got D's and F's and they're taking him from English 101 to English 102 or whatever, English 1 and English 2 in a high school and English 3 and science and biology and just pushing him to the next class, even though he failed the previous one. He didn't get his prerequisites. And I feel sorry for that kid because nobody paid attention to him. He wasn't coming to school. He wasn't. So a lot is to blame on him. But when you're 15, 16 years old,
you're right. More blame on the system for sure.
And your environment just keeps pushing you forward.
No one should have pushed that guy. Everyone older should have recognized we need to circle the wagons and pull this guy in.
And you talk about community and everything in these poor areas, but where's the community? Where was the community for this kid?
Expecting someone else to do it.
Expecting the government to do it. That's the problem here. It's just too much bloat. People expect.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about mismanaged the funds, the subsidies, and the school system and stuff. I mean, I'm not going to try to say that I pretend to understand inner city education and the struggles that they go through. On its face, I completely can appreciate the fact that some of these kids come from really tough comeuppance and struggle at home and stuff like that. So they find kind of refuge in school and stuff. And hey, listen, I'm not going to even discount that. But if you zoom out and look at the bigger picture of public school in the United States, as a parent that we focus on some of the most off the wall topics instead of getting to the basics and teaching our kids, yes, teach them how to be good people, but you don't have to worry about indoctrinating my kid, right?
Right.
We need to get back to the nuclear families in this country and teach your kids at home the things that you want to be able to control personally. I'll be damned if I have any school system tell me as a parent that they know better than I about how to raise my kid. It's absolute insanity to me. So when you have this wokeism and this worrying about what bathrooms to use and all of this stuff, it's like, where are we on this journey of trying to better our society? I just don't see how that fits. I feel like balls are getting dropped with regards to these, the kids and their education. Now they have social media and the internet and all of this wokeism stuff going on at school. I feel like my kids are completely exhausted when they get home from school. And by and large, we're still kind of a small, rural, non-woke school system that we're in. So I can about imagine when you get into these larger, especially blue run cities, it's just madness. We're piling on to these kids who already have enough on their plate, and they're kids. They're supposed to be learning and playing. And if you just look at it when they're playing at recess and stuff, these kids know how to treat each other like humans. We don't need to teach them that.
Right.
They don't care about any of that woke garbage that you're trying to put in front of them. They know how to treat people like humans. We don't need to do that. Teach them math, reading, and arithmetic. Thank you.
Right. Let's say you're playing kickball or something. Accidentally kick the ball into a kid's face. You feel bad. I felt bad as a kid when I did that. The other kid felt bad when I got hurt or whatever. We do know how to treat one another. And we don't need all the craziness. We don't need the lunacy. We don't need, kids questioning their genders. Because that's not on their mind until it is brought up in front of them. And then they're like, well, so.
Yes.
They're impressionable. And you talk about puberty blockers, all this stuff. Would you let your 15-year-old get a tattoo? No. Because it's permanent. This stuff is permanent. This damage, this mental damage is permanent. This physical damage is permanent. So why would you put this on a kid?
Well,
on this innocent human. Why would you do that?
Of the volley, I would say, of things that I care about as a person, or as a parent rather, and the issues facing our country that will undoubtedly affect my children's future. I can't tell you how far from center wokeism and this CRT and all of this junk, this idea that you should be propped up without having to do anything based on things that we were taught as kids that you weren't supposed to treat people differently. Mm-hmm. And now we've taken the steering wheel and jerked it to the other ditch. We're in the other ditch now. It's a massive overcorrection.
It used to be the content of your character, right? That was the whole MLK speech. The content of your character.
Yeah.
You work hard, you rise to the top. The cream always rises to the top.
Ganglion, we got you on audio there. I think you're muted right now.
It's going in and out. Yeah, you keep muting and unmuting. Can't hear you. Nope. So, talking about family. Well, I did want to talk about family today. It's been a beautiful 10 months with Emma. I love her to death. We're coming almost up on her first year, and we're getting ready. We're having ideas for her first birthday, and we're heading to Florida later this month to go visit family and have Thanksgiving down there. And Beautiful. Then we're going to have we're going to celebrate her first birthday down there and Christmas down there. And then we're going to have a big birthday bash for her in December on her birthday. So her birthday falls on a Saturday. So we're going to I'm getting a new smoker. We're smoking meats.
Always got to smoke the meats.
We're smoking meats and all sorts of stuff. We're going to have people over at the house. It's going to be a big thing. Can't hear you. That's awesome.
I can't believe she's coming up on a year. I mean, I'm sure you can't.
It's nuts. Every day is more personality pops out. Like she's pointing now. She goes, huh, and points at stuff. She loves ceiling fans. I'm sure most kids love ceiling fans. So she constantly just tells me the ceiling fan is right above my head. I'm like, yes, I see it. And I point up at it, and then she looks up, and then she goes, huh. So
love it. I remember.
You're still muted, or you're not muted, but we can't hear you. Nope.
The audio issues continue. It was me first. I was, having some tomfoolery with the audio.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Family, dude. Family is just everything. It's just everything in this country. I mean, it's got to be, because it's the bedrock, for which to build a healthy country. And so, we've talked briefly, and I don't want to go on a tangent on it again, but the 4B stuff, like all of this, I get it. People are upset. Okay, be upset, but to denigrate, the what they're calling the patriarchy, which is really just the family unit in the United States of America, and it's the bedrock. You cannot oversell the importance of family. And where do you go? Like, where do you go if not for family, right? And
Right.
it's just
Well,
it's everything.
Well, there's a statistic. I'll have to pull it up, but how many children out of fatherless homes commit crimes, have mental illnesses, all sorts of things? Without having a father in the home, it breaks the mental fortitude of these children, women and men, both. It creates this emptiness. There's a missing part without having a father. And when you start breaking the homes and making divorce easier, or not easier, but just making divorce a normal thing, incentivizing divorce, making it harder for families to stay connected. For the most part, when it comes down to divorce, male suicides, and stuff like that, it's usually money. Money is the key factor because men take pride in taking care of their families,
Being providers,
creating security, providing, doing all this stuff. What are you supposed to do if you don't have the means to put a roof over your head? If you can't put a roof over your wife and kids, what are you? And then that's where the depression sinks in, and everything else just falls apart. The rug gets pulled out from under you. You fall into the abyss.
Yeah.
No, we still can't hear you, Corey.
Oh, he's back. So back.
We're back, baby.
The headphones. I'm back, baby.
Yeah, it kept going muted, unmuted, so I felt like the cord kept popping in and out.
I touched the button on the headphones.
Oh. Don't touch it.
When the light's off, we're off.
Yeah, so we moved on to family and talking about how fatherless homes create a vacuum, okay. And that
they certainly do. All I can think was how strong my father was. And he grew up in a home. He was picked off the hospital floor, basically. And then he was put into an environment. There was no home life.
Mm-hmm.
He literally grew up in the forest. And when I say in the forest, he built a house in the trees and survived. And so when I look back and think about my childhood, it's like, this was a feral father. And so I'm not coming from a position of like a home with cookies and, all that. And
Privilege.
It's okay. It's okay. I have to accept that.
Mm-hmm.
We're all coming from different positions in life. And that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to accept the position that you were given. And that they sacrificed all these different things for themselves for you.
Right.
For sure.
And that's all we can do is just build upon the foundation that we were given. And it was better, mostly, not always. Some people are really given a shaft, but most people are given a position that is somewhat better than what they were given. And it may not be a lot. A few inches is better than being less than where you came from, like it's
right.
But in that vein, it's like, is that not something that we should be putting on a pedestal as in the vein of things that we celebrate in this country? fatherhood, family, doing the hard things, doing the selfless service. You think back to like the Army core values, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fatherhood is truly, aside from putting my faith in Christ and dying to self in that regard, fatherhood is very, very similar. You have to put the needs of those dependent on you above your own.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we are meant to do as men. That's literally the burden. I think Dana White said it best. He's like, I don't want to talk about my feelings. And he's a pretty hard dude. He's like, yes, I struggle. I have burdens, whatever, but like, this is what I was built for. This is what men are built for, is to carry that weight, to put it up on the shoulders and drive forward. Right. And like, somehow along the way in this madness and this lunacy and this wokeism, people want to tear down the patriarchy. People want to tear down masculine men. People want to tear down present fathers as if that's some white privilege or something. Like, I grew up without my dad.
Toxic masculinity.
Yeah, the only toxic masculinity is beta males running around pretending that they're not men, or trying to be something other than what they were created to be.
Right. Well, it's just a facade. It's a facade. So the thing is with men who dip down to that feminist level, they are looking for something in return. And when they don't get that return, they then bite back. They are the dog that bites. So men who don't expect much in return go, okay, well, you didn't want that? All right, see you later. I can move on.
And in
I don't
doing
have to
so,
be petty.
in doing so, I think what you just said was, so you're not going to be a masculine male. And what I mean by that isn't being jacked, isn't being the strongest guy around. What that means is picking up your freaking burdens, man, for the family and driving forward. So if you're not going to do that, then you flip the other way, at least what I've seen. And all of a sudden you start taking on the torch of feminism. And now, not only are you not fulfilling your duties as a God-created male, now you're actually undermining the role of the woman by pitching this crazy feminism. And I think the maddening part of it is that it's popular. They are being celebrated in their circles, and it's like, no, we need to hoist the male and female roles back to their position of power, because we need them.
I think naturally that's where it'll gravitate towards, because you have this fake aurora and attachment to it, but yet that's only being supplanted by media. In the natural, like the natural selection section, that's not picked up on. People don't gravitate towards that mentality. And that's why they're mad. They're mad because it's not popular, because that's not what women want. Women want a man who can be a man and control the situation, who can take care of multiple things at once. Women can control what they can control, but they can't control multiple things day after day. They can't wake up off of 4 hours of sleep and handle things. There's different roles. Both sides have their distinct roles, and they fill them perfectly when they're directed towards it.
And it goes right back to the single family homes, right? Whether that's fatherless, which I think is more often than not, because as it turns out, the mother is less likely to give up their kids, obviously than is the
and I would
father.
say rightfully so, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that came from your body. You created that with your body. Yeah, you should.
There's no disconnect there.
Have an attachment. But you can't do both. You can't be a single father. You can't be a single mother. I'm not saying that it's not possible to struggle well and get through it. But what I am saying is that was not the intent. That was not the design. And, there's all sorts of things that lead to fatherless homes and that lead to single parents and stuff, whether it's domestic abuse, whether it's, actual physical abuse, just all of the different variables. But I mean, so just a little bit of context on what I come from. My mom, I was raised without my dad. My mom was single, and my brother and sister each have different dads, and my comeuppance was very much like you, Corey, like not milk and cookies, not like a standard traditional American family. But I had a stepdad who stepped in and filled that role, and the man deserves medals. He deserves accolades. Not that my mom doesn't, because she absolutely is a saint. But when they came together, they gave me what I needed as a young man. He taught me how to be a man, and my mom softened my heart, and I'm a better person for it. But without that, you just become a less than well-rounded individual, in my opinion. I've seen it a bunch. You've seen these people in society, and it's unfortunate, is what I'll say.
Well, you become angry because you feel like everything is against you. You haven't been taught to. All you know is struggle. You don't know how to get out of it. You don't know how to build yourself up. You don't know what that looks like. You don't know what success looks like. So it's
I
difficult.
think back upon the episode in 300 when all the men come back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's this distinct disconnection, right? Where you have people who are raised without the intent of combat, and that you need the yin and the yang. There's a distinct difference between the two sides. You need an equal portion of both, with whatever separate differences added on top. And it can only happen when both sides are working together. Yet you can also have an imbalance, yet if it's if it's balanced on the opposite side. When it's only one side, you have this whole the worldview is broken because it's all about this one viewpoint. Yet what is the basic structure of a cell? It's both sides. You can't just have one thing. It's not monolithic.
Right.
We are all about the balance of the yin and the yang. And it's not confusing to me at this point. Like it was at a certain point. I did think a certain way. But yet at some point it all came together and I realized it's a balance, because you can't we're not it's not so basic.
Yeah, and the nuclear family doesn't have to look the same for from one family to the next. Just like you pointed out, it's like you figure out how to work as a team regardless of which tasks you pick up. That's the whole thing. Is what you're saying is, hey, like, we're going to do a bunch of stuff that we don't want to do, but it's because we love our kids and it's because we love each other, and we're going to divide and conquer on this thing, and we're going to send some well-rounded individuals out into the world so that they can be contributing members of society. I don't think anybody's ever argued that, coming from a strong, stable family sets most people up for success. At least gives them kind of a jumping off point for that, right? So then why now, in response to getting, an outcome that they did not like, do we have this whole movement that's trying to say, tear down the patriarchy, tear down the familial unit, And then what does that leave us with in society? What's going to come out of that?
Right.
Either a declining birth rate so that we don't have people to carry the torch for our future, or a bunch of messed up kids. They're going to create more problems and burn more stuff down. I mean, hurting people, right?
Well, that's what's happening. That's what's happening in Japan and China. Their birth rate has plummeted. They don't have enough. They don't have enough children now, kids, to replace the elders that are soon gonna, die off, right? So who's gonna do the jobs? Who's gonna do the jobs? Who's gonna fill the roles of society? And it's just gonna create multiple vacuums, and that's what happens
for sure.
So and when there's a vacuum, guess what? Guess what happens when you create a vacuum? Evil
Satan
comes
jumps
in.
straight in there.
Exactly. We've done this with endless wars. We've created a vacuum in the Middle East. Guess what? We just get a new enemy. A new enemy hops in.
Every time.
A different head to the Hydra pops up. A different mole pops up. You just got to keep whacking them down. The more you whack them down, you create another vacuum. You whack one head, two more heads pop up.
That's like, if I had to summarize, my excitement and my confidence in this upcoming 4-year cycle here, I guess I would summarize it by saying America's going to get back to the basics. We are going to get back to what we know works well for healthy people, for prosperous nation, for education outcomes, for health and physical well-being. I mean, that in and of itself, I'm like, it gives me goosebumps thinking about what it might look like to actually go to the grocery store and get, or let's call a market, right? Let's take a European approach to this thing, right? And go to market and make a meal and come home and let that be the center point of our evening, instead of where are we blowing off to tonight because we're so busy we can't even sit down and eat a box of mac and cheese that's going to make us terribly unhealthy, or name your food as a replacement. Like, we just have an emphasis, I think, in the wrong place because we're so overtaxed. We're so overtaxed, truly, actually, literally overtaxed, and our time is overtaxed. We're being stretched and allowing ourselves to be pulled in all directions except for the most important ones.
Yeah, we're taxed on our income. We're taxed on stuff we buy. We're on tax with stuff that we own. It's just tax. It's just waste. That's
without the outcome. Where's the outcome? That's what I want to know. Is like, I am all about investing, but I want a return on my investment. Where is it?
Yeah. I don't.
And for too long, it's not been into ourselves. It's been into someone else. And so when you buy that box of mac and cheese, it's not an investment into your kids. It's not an investment into your own life. Okay, you saved 14 minutes on making dinner. You saved 1.4 minutes on the shareholders of Kraft. But that same box of Kraft is completely different in Canada, completely different in Europe. Why is it different here? And so that's the exciting part, is that we are on the cusp of something different this time. And I believe it.
Yep.
Because what Trump's transition team said was, we are not beholden to lobbyists. This has been a 3-month process. We've been in the process of setting ourselves up for success months before, even before we were approved to be the next team, right? And so we are not going to allow the same people from 2016 to infiltrate our mentality.
Well, I feel like that was the stipulations for both sides. For RFK to come through, he said, hey, I want to do this. We have to get this done. If you let me in, I will do this for you. And then in return, I'm doing this thing for you. And Trump's ego's way too big to let this fail. He's way too big. What crushed him was COVID. COVID crushed him. The spending bill before he left, that crushed him. The spending bill that Biden ended up putting out, that crushed him, right? So that crushed him. But the thing is, right now we are on a great trajectory. We just have to hold their feet to the fire now.
You're right.
We have to keep pushing. We have to.
The accountability
we have
has
to
to be
keep
unceasing.
pressuring.
Right.
We have to keep pressuring the people that are in those positions.
Well, I
Either
would take
meme warfare, or that's my job. I'll just share them in my stories, you know. So just pushing the cause, getting us to a freer society, not held down by the machine, not held down by Big Brother.
That's the whole thing is taking, this, what we've been talking about for the most part, really, especially in this election cycle, obviously with the presidency, the House and the Senate, we're talking federal concerns here, but we need to take the same energy and the same stance and approach to tactical civics, right? Getting into the school boards, getting into
your backyard.
Yeah, I mean, do it at home, right? Do it in your house and then go out and do the same thing. These concerns should be shared. And what we're talking about here is not only going to make everybody healthier, it's going to change a lot more, because as you know, like you can't have an effective impact if you're coming from a place of feeling like crap. You can't. Right. It's difficult. It's a slog every day. And I mean, it's just, that's what I see, these grassroots movements of getting in. Great. We got the presidency. All right. Now let's talk about governorship. Now let's talk about, local levels of civics. And that's
State
where
Senate, your township,
that's where it should always
your school board, all that.
Yeah. Let the feds control the oversight. Clean it up, right? Clean up so at least we know that when we do go to market.
Can't expect that. Is that you should always have oversight over your market. You should always have oversight over your town council. These are margins that you can control. And they're things that you can show up to once a week and control and dictate what's on their agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's the difficult part, though, is as options start to roll out, I really do think it's going to have to be a concerted effort by the people still, because you can't tell me that they're going to force companies to stop shelving these terrible products. And if there's an option, there are people who have budget concerns, rightfully and justifiably, that are still going to reach for the poison option. So it's like, how do we drive home the point here of cleaning this up? And that's just talking about the food.
And I get it, but I think we're on that precipice where there's enough people who are already considering that. And so now that they're going to be pushed on the other end, that it won't be a difficult transition.
Yeah. I mean, how many people do you know in your lifetime that got diagnosed with cancer and passed, right?
And what is the common denominator here? It's not some. That's for you to decide. What is the common denominator? I believe I know what the common denominator is. It's food. The food is dictating a lot of the problems in society. People will turn around and say, "Oh, vaccines cause this." No, it's actually the food dyes and the processed food proteins that you're consuming. It's deeper than the easy route out, right? It's the totalitarianism of the food system. It's the entirety of it. And so when they say, and they turn around and say, "You're weird because you eat some item that only has 4 items, 4 ingredients in it." That's
so
weird.
I find it weird that now being a granola liberal is somehow conservative. Being that person, oh, I eat what I grow.
And Scott, that's true because when I was young and it was like 95, this person moved across the street from us and we all thought she was weird. Because her
Yeah,
kid didn't eat chocolate, didn't eat this
right.
or that. Yet she was 15 years ahead of everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's
Because
so
she already
normalized.
understood all those things. The
It's
artificial dyes, the protein fats, the
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the
Seed oils.
solidized oils.
all
It
the
was
fillers.
all bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you just literally break, I think about my childhood, and I'm super good. I am a sweet fanatic. I love sugar.
Mm,
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I know I do, but like
yeah,
especially
I
being
love
a
it
kid,
too.
you look at all these little fun toys, the push pops and these little baby bottle pops and these little things where you can like put some juice on this sucker over here and it's all bright colors and this and that. I mean, just
Mm-hmm.
if we just slow down for a second, think like, hey, what is food? Oh, okay, well, it's like animal meat, it's plants, right? And how did we get here? How did we
Yeah.
get to some of this stuff, right? This ultra
Yeah.
processed boxed stuff that you take it out and it's freaking radioactive glowing in your
Yeah.
bowl and you splash some milk on it, crush it, and go expect to have a productive day. Like it's just
But
it's
then you also
brutal.
decide like that's not a problem.
Well, we've been marketed to and brainwashed for so many years that I mean, I can remember going to school thinking like we must be pretty well off because I got toaster strudel, man. Some of these kids got to eat
Yep.
school lunch and stuff or school breakfast line or
Breakfast.
whatever. And like the fact of the matter is that well, I don't think the school breakfast was probably any better, but like the fact of the matter is like all of this brainwashing going on, this marketing, this television, this stuff, like you just thought like, well, this is food. Like you
Yep.
didn't question it. And
Yeah.
now that people are, more and more people are. And as soon if you've ever done an elimination diet, or if you've ever just eliminated some
Mhm.
like seed oils or anything like that out of your diet, it's like a light bulb goes on inside your head, and you're like, I had no idea that I could feel like this.
We did
Not a
multiple
clue at
years
all.
ago. Yeah.
My joints feel better, or I can actually think clear today, or I've been fasting for the
I haven't been
mornings up
sick
until
in like
about
14 months, so I don't know.
I've
Yeah,
been
man.
fasting until 1 p.m. I'll take a protein bar or something, and
Yeah.
then I'll eat dinner. Julia makes dinner, and she usually makes everything from scratch. She goes to the market every weekend, grabs stuff, grabs the ingredients. So every dinner, it's freshly made, and
This is not
I've lost 35 pounds in 3 months. And
And
I have
Boom.
been
that was my
maybe working
prediction
out 3 to
at the
4 days a
beginning,
week.
Scott.
That's it.
And this is not to sound condescending to anyone, but yet you need to really focus in on what you bring in, because what
Mhm.
you bring in dictates what you put out. And so when your consumption is things you can't pronounce, and it's words you can't pronounce, and it's
Right.
it's chemical compositions that you can't turn around and buy in the store, it's a
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're
it certainly
consuming
is.
things that are basically poison. That is
It's
poison.
it's already been grown. It's
You
already
go
been
to
engineered by the
AM/PM and
earth.
you get a breakfast sandwich, and there's those words that are 17 and 25 characters long. That's a
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah, you don't need that.
You're not going to get some flour and mix it with some butter and some
Mhm.
baking soda and stuff and get flour, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
These are chemical compound and strains which don't exist naturally. Yet
Right.
you eat it daily over and over again, even at the minutest levels. That is what you become.
But it does. It goes back to like getting back to the basics, right? Putting the priorities because
Mhm.
we all know, like I get it. Like people are on a budget, people are on a time budget. Some people are working 2, 3 jobs, right? I get that. Convenience is awesome, and we're all used to it now and brainwashed into the routine complex, right? But again, if if you know, you can place the priority in the appropriate spot, right? You can put the emphasis where it belongs on these types of things, and that's got to be one of them. It's just got to be one of them, or
Food's gotta be one of them.
you're relegating yourself to saying, it's just a matter of time before I get this, or before I'm, paying, before I need Medicare,
I'll deal
before I
with it
need
then.
this, and get insulin or whatever. I mean, it's just
Not worth it.
why not take care of the body? And that goes further than food. It does. And this is where like the FDA and some of the other oversight comes into play too. We are a giant permeable membrane walking around. Our skin absorbs everything. Think about the stuff you put on your body. Think about the aluminum deodorants and all this stuff. Like, you're putting heavy metal onto your body. It's getting absorbed. Like, you're absorbing everything, whether it's Axe body wash. Like, it's terrible. It's just
your shampoo, body wash, deodorant, lotion,
cologne. I mean, everything.
Sunscreen, all of it.
You wonder why there's so many, folks struggling with thyroidism and either hyper, whatever. There's so much going on that could have been controlled. And we're all in the same boat. I was, I grew up on poison. Sometimes I still choose it. That's my choice. But if I had more,
I'm glad you said that, because that's true.
But that's informed consent. That's
Correct.
informed consent.
When we were young, it was
I guess
not
that's not informed consent.
No.
I guess that's not informed consent. But you are doing your research. Right now, it's not informed consent. They are throwing. So I saw.
There's
something.
no other options.
I can't remember who said this.
Some aspects.
Or where they said it or whatever. But they're saying when you go to the grocery store, and then you see an aisle that says health food aisle. Well, what's the rest of the store?
Yeah.
Is it all junk?
It is junk.
And why is it junk? Why are we sold junk?
Many of the
Stuff
health
that's
food
supposed to be
items are junk
normal.
too, though. So
Your
that's the
bread.
issue.
For sure.
Bread. Why is your bread bleached? Why is it just going
bread
through your
consists
body?
of 5 ingredients. So when you buy it and it's 8 and 15 and 12, like, that's an issue.
That's because they need it to sit on the truck and on the shelves and in your house for a month, and it's
convenience.
we got a phenomenal local business here, and I forget the name of it, but they make sourdough bread and bring it to like, you can pick it up at the farmers market and stuff like that. And I am just such a fan because I love bread. I'm gonna be honest, like I'm not a gluten intolerant individual.
Yeah,
I love full fat butter and milk. Like I do. I want all the healthy stuff, but it is. And I laughed and joked with Jamie that we got to stop buying this bread. I'm like, you got to stop bringing cottage bread home. I know it's good and it's fluffy and you like the texture and this and that, and it toasts up nice and all that. But listen, if we could just painfully switch over to sourdough only, I think it's going to go a long, long ways. And I mean, she's on board, but I think I got to be the one to push the gas pedal a little bit on that one. So, but it's about options. It's about
how much you want to put into it, right? Because
yeah,
I have 5-gallon buckets of flour, 5-gallon buckets of sugar, and so it's how much. It's the trade-off, right? Like, you can go buy that loaf of bread that's already made, or are you going to make it a day ahead of time?
Right.
And so it's really that balance, like
Yeah, and it is a choice. Yep.
Yeah, it's patience, trust in the process.
And that's
just
true,
like we were talking about
trust
before.
the process.
Trust the process.
And
name of the episode.
It's not a problem that you go buy it, that someone else made it. It's just, what did they use to make that product?
For sure. That's what I'm saying is, like, some of these companies, obviously, like, we have fed right into the routine structure of, like, how many times you're going to go to the grocery store if you're buying food that lasts for 2, 3, 4 weeks at a time, once a month, twice a month tops, right? And that in and of itself should tell you pretty much everything that you need to know, because your food should mostly be alive or
Mhm.
decaying from the moment that you buy it.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
that's literally what raw ingredients do. And
Mhm.
anyway,
So when I lived in Germany as a kid, Germans go to the market every day. They go to the market every day. They get their fresh produce after work, before work, whatever, and then they bring that home. They bring those fresh vegetables home. They bring that bread home. They bring those ingredients home. Then they cook it that day. Then they do it all over again the next day. We don't do that here. Our culture has shifted away from that. And that's something that you could do as an individual, is make time to do that.
It's difficult
Now,
when you have multiple people. Yeah.
and we usually either go to the store on Saturday or Sunday, and then we buy all the ingredients for the week, and then we do it all over again Saturday or Sunday.
Mhm.
But a lot of people will buy their food for the whole month. They'll get 2 shopping carts worth of food. They'll spend $400, $500
Mhm.
or $600. That's probably $600 now for 2 shopping carts worth of food, maybe more. And so they're
Probably.
doing that and then stocking their house up for a month.
Yeah. An ingredient
they
household
and-
is what you're talking about, though, right? Or you're saying that
So an ingredient household would be either every day or at least at the very most once a week. At the very
right,
most,
or you'd
once a
have the
week.
dry stuff in bulk on hand.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All your dry stuff would already be there. You probably get that like once a month or once every 2 months if
Yeah.
you buy enough in bulk, right? But if you're getting your fresh items like your vegetables and stuff, again, like you said, once you buy it, it's already decaying. Once you get those avocados, once you get those bananas, once you
Yeah.
get those strawberries.
I don't eat those glyphosate vegetables.
Glyphosate.
Sorry.
I'll be right back, guys. I gotta
Glyphosate.
jump for a quick sec here.
Yeah.
I
And-
can't spell glyphosate.
And that is the issue, right? Like, it's a delicate balance. Like, how much
Mhm.
can you buy in one trip? And so
Right.
it's a process that you'll learn over
How much
time.
are you supposed to buy in one trip? Are you supposed to buy stuff for a whole month? Are you
No.
supposed to
Well,
get like
so
endless amounts
I
of
would
sugar?
say, like, flour, sugar,
sugar
it should be a
treats?
month at a time.
Right.
But vegetables, lettuce, greens, meat,
Mm-hmm.
that is going to be a different time frame. And so it'll
Mhm.
depend on your consumption.
Right.
There's no one set guideline. It's
Right.
something that you'll learn over time. As time
Right.
goes by, you can produce your own.
And you don't have to do it all at
consumption.
once, too. You can like the process, trust the process, do incremental things.
You'll waste some. You'll have some that'll spoil,
Mhm.
but then
And then you'll figure it out.
That's the only way.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
You'll figure it out. It's trial. It's trial and error. You'll figure it out. You'll figure out the stuff that you can buy once a week, every other day, or once a month.
Yeah, it wasn't just one day I woke up and I realized I could buy 5 pounds of flour, 5 pounds of sugar at a time. Like,
Yeah.
I have 5-gallon buckets of.
I've
stuff
got
here,
two
so
I got 2 Home Depot buckets worth of flour.
I have 6 buckets.
6 buckets.
Of
That's
where-
mad
yeah.
buckets, dog. Mad buckets.
Well, so I can use a whole cup of 2 cups of flour in one night, and that's
Mhm.
like a third of a whole bag that you get to the store.
Right.
And so, yeah, I use a lot of flour because I could make 2 whole things in one night.
Well, it's also cheaper buying in bulk too, so.
Um,
It's like, remember as a kid, like you
Right.
could get a can of soda for 50 cents, right? Or you could get the 2-liter for $1. Like, which one would you get? Like 2 12-ounce cans for $1?
So, like,
or would
when
you
I
get
make-
the 2-liter?
I may make
I'd
some
buy the
barbecue
2-liter.
sauce,
I would walk
and
around
that's
with the 2-liter.
a cup of brown sugar, which is
Pour it in your
1/3 of a
glass.
bag. So
Yeah. Soda's a bad example. We're talking about being healthy.
I know. I was like, oh, we just
Soda was a
Pitch that
terrible example. Sorry.
When you build something out of nothing, it takes a lot. But yet,
Yeah.
then you don't have to do it for 40 days.
Right.
You know, I think about so again, like going back to the big box grocery. Jamie will bring home a thing of apples, and I'm going to call them out. I'm going to say it. Target has the most putrid, terrible, god awful apples you ever saw in your entire life. At least what we got going on at our local Target here. And all you got to do is go buy a bag of them. It's going to be a waste of money. I'm sorry, but buy a bag of them, and then go to Aldi. And Aldi's not like super uber health, right? But they do carry local orchard apples, and I'm talking about this is a life changing, and we're talking about apples. And I mean, I ate a Target apple the other day because we had a bag of them in the fridge, and I'm like, ugh, I rinsed it off, whatever. Could have probably hit it with a blowtorch, and it's still terrible. But like, it just tasted like it came out of a factory. It tasted like it came off of a conveyor belt.
Taste the plastic.
Right.
Like chemical and stuff like that. And I just got done before we jumped on here. Just got done eating one of those orchard apples, and I was just like, this is the difference right here. It's no different than if you made your own loaf of bread and you had a slab of that instead of a thing of cottage bread. You can taste what real food is supposed to taste like, but you can't if you're poisoned to the point of like, I don't know, I can barely taste anything unless you oversalt the crap out of it or whatever.
Mark and I have talked about that, how like you get to a point where you don't understand the difference, and your body's under such distress that when you actually have something wholesome, it tastes foreign. You don't want it.
Yeah.
And now you start rejecting what is actually better than what you've already been accustomed to.
You want that dopamine hit. I want that dopamine hit. I don't want to.
Right.
Something that might taste bland here for a little while. And
Well,
while I detox.
it was like tasting the vegetables when we were in Iraq. When the guy would come in to clean out the porta johns, he would bring in fresh vegetables for us, right? Schnack, when we were at SUJ.
Yeah.
He'd bring in fresh vegetables. Those vegetables, homegrown, taste totally different than you would get at the supermarket here. Pizzas taste totally different than they do here as they do in Italy, because they use fresh vegetables, or whatever European country you want to think of. It tastes different. The vegetables taste different. I remember being in Egypt. The vegetables taste different. The Coca-Cola out of Mexico tastes different. It's it's crazy that we're given a product that doesn't have the taste. It doesn't have the nutrition in it. All of the nutrition has been extracted out of it, and then we just get the scraps.
Yeah, it's all denatured. It's all, there's a whole, it's crazy. Oh, I got a joke though. I got to tell this joke because I have an opportunity here and I got to take it. One of my coworkers put this in the chat today, and I thought it was hilarious. Said, "All right, we're gonna get rid of shredded cheese from the shelves because we got to make America great again." Get the grater out.
Get the grater out.
I haven't bought in grated
Did you see that Chicago?
like
Did you see that Chicago? Did you see the Chicago Bears fan at the Green Bay game? He had a grater on his head.
Oh, not welcome.
No, not for the cheeseheads.
No, we're wedges only, dude. We don't get shredded. Except for by the Lions last week, but
oof,
no worries.
That's all right. QB's injured. It's okay.
I agree.
It's okay. It's okay to have excuses, Danny.
Right.
Well, it's not like Aaron Rodgers is doing any different in New York. So,
I was
rooting for the guy. I am rooting for the guy still. But
I like him, but I do enjoy watching that soap opera unfold. It's a bad deal.
It's like a weird. It's like the
I'm a-
same thing that happened with Brett Favre, because he went to the Jets too, and then
So
he just
are you saying Rodgers is going to be in Minnesota?
he's going to be in Minnesota.
Spoiler alert! No,
He's gonna be in the Twin Cities.
Screw him.
Is that too Canadian for you?
it's a little
Once
close.
you start
Very
throwing in a
Why don't you just go get in your boat?
boat. That's too funny. But yeah, hey, let's do some memes real quick.
Do
I
it.
love
Since
memes.
since we're doing jokes.
Meme all about
So what about? Well, this is in response to the election. Make government small again. And this
Big
is
it.
so this is in tribute to Peanut the squirrel that was
Big corn small.
euthanized in New York for no reason at all.
And
too
Brooke
much
mentioned
government.
how, hey, when did Harambe get euthanized?
Oh, 2016.
Exactly. Let's go.
Yep. It's the next arc.
We are at the tip of the arc.
We're dawn of a new day.
Dawn of the new day.
So since we are not, like, I'm not a staunch Republican. Neither are you two. Some want this, others want that. I want this.
Tar and feather.
Hey, hence the podcast name, all right? Gotta go back to our roots here.
We want accountability.
Oh. And then we'll welcome in the new Department of Health, RFK Jr. Do you want this?
That's not normal.
This lunacy on the left? Or do you want fit and strong on the right? I want to be fit and strong. I want America to be fit and strong.
Got to bring back JFK's regiment. Let's do it.
You hear
Okay.
the stories of JFK swimming across the channel, dragging a body with his teeth, and then you have the opposite. So, yeah, exactly.
The La Sierra system. That's what it was called. The high school fitness test standard.
And he
Oh,
wasn't
yeah.
the first person to put it into play.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually after World War II, when and all these people were overweight, and they had.
I mean, now we even lowered our
actually-
military standards.
We
Yep.
saw it ourselves, right? So there we were.
Yeah, what is
young-
the
we-
runtime now for the Army?
We were young privates,
It's
and there was people above us who
something
were
awful.
getting waivers for no reasons.
I'd be getting 100s on my PFT.
Well, and so put that into your own
That's
life.
close while I was in.
Let's hold that to our own selves. Let's put ourselves to the PT standards that we had
Mhm.
15 years, 20 years ago.
Yeah. Was it like below
Live up to
7-minute miles to get perfect in the run? I think it was actually like 6:45 or something like that.
Yeah. Well, let's do it.
Um,
I'm down. I
it was
accept that challenge. Push ourselves.
60. Was it 60 plus push-ups? And
I think
then 60 plus sit-ups.
Maybe. I think the push-ups might have been lower than that. But
Maybe
either
45.
way. So one thing I just looked up, which I find fascinating, because it kind of plays into the whole like guys, men and women and the differences there. Quote from The Hill: following a 3-year review, the Army has scrapped plans to use the same PT test for all soldiers, choosing instead to have some reduced standards to allow women and older soldiers to pass.
Yikes.
Are we not admitting some
We're
physical
older
differences
soldiers.
there?
Thank
I mean,
We're getting soft.
well, this doesn't even include the fact that they already laxed the PT standards from when we were in.
Right.
there was separate standards.
Yeah. Lackadaisical. I just don't.
Weren't they talking about different standards for jobs too? Different MOSs that you had a different standard for. So like it was tougher if you're infantry, and then maybe a little easier if you're supply.
Maybe. I know the infantry
Wasn't
had
it-
to be able to
I
like
thought that was
firemen
too.
carry. They had to be able to firemen carry each other.
Yeah,
Which,
but was
I mean,
that an actual test, or did they just have to do that? Just
I don't know.
do
No.
that.
Not a grunt. I haven't heard from any, but
Doesn't
I'm sure.
matter.
Yeah.
Strive for the better task.
Now, I
Wow.
got to shoot the I got to shoot the shit with the grunt today. I had to
Did you?
get some. I had to get some hose made for a generator.
A
And-
hole?
Good.
A hose, and
Got a hose
the two guys worked there were prior service.
Nice.
It was cool talking to them. One was in 101st, and then I think the other one, he didn't tell me what division he was in, but he was assisting 101st in Afghanistan in 2009. So when Rudy and them were over in Afghanistan, he said 10th Mountain was over there too. So, yeah, he was talking about that. He's like, "Oh, I never got to meet him, but 10th Mountain was over there." I was like, "Oh man, that was the boat that I missed. I got out right before they went out there." Oh, Spofford and I
Good job.
got out right before.
Yeah. What year did you guys get out?
Oh, Spofford
Early.
was 09. I was 2010.
Okay, that's it. Yeah, I was 09 as well. April.
Yeah, I got out a couple months before they ended up going to Afghanistan, because I ended up getting medically discharged because my right leg was going numb on runs. So
Never
I was
got my
getting
tools out of the
really bad
show.
sciatica. Yeah.
Yeah. What?
Yeah. I said I never got my tools out of the show.
Dang it. I still think I have the boot print in my ass from them kicking me out so fast when we got home.
Yeah, I don't know. Just-
Oh, stop loss and go home now.
Yep.
They didn't.
Well, I mean, yeah. You didn't get a real chance to transition.
No, you didn't get a Warriors send off like you and many others should have. Honestly,
Mhm.
you guys.
Well, you got to have some time to transition from
Many of you people were kept
from
around
having your day
past your
for
due
having
date,
your,
and then they would turn around and said bye.
yeah.
Well, that's 6 months and in Iraq. Yeah, stop loss for 6 months, and I was not happy.
Well, it shouldn't have been stop loss to begin with, so you should have been able to use that time after, or the time that your contract ended. You have 6 months to transition out, or
Yep.
however much it is.
It was a little.
Oh.
It was a little laughable. I mean, on the one hand, I was absolutely, ready to leave. Like I
Delighted.
wanted to go home, and then on the other
Mhm.
hand, it's just funny thinking back on it because I remember going through. I can't remember the acronyms. Frankly, I needed to forget. But going through like out processing, and essentially like the what you call the transition there was like framed as a question like, hey, you don't have thoughts about hurting yourself, right?
Right.
And that was pretty much it. And it was like, oh,
yeah.
no.
Yeah,
Like-
no,
Yeah.
I agree, because there's a lot of those questions that you think back upon, like I wasn't allowed to think. I wasn't allowed to think. What are you talking about? Like you look at these papers in your paperwork now. You can be at your
Mhm.
house and think like, I never had a thought. I never had a chance to think about how I should answer this.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Where am I going? When am I going? And that was pretty much it. Like the orders
Well,
were
it was
the
like
orders.
it was like a primary care doctor visit. It was like you get 15 minutes,
It
Right.
was less than that.
and they
It was-
rush you, and they
it
rush you
was-
right out the door. Like when we got back
Preconceived-
from
everything was
Iraq.
predetermined. You were set in stone before you even walked in there.
Yeah. They already knew the answers. They already had everything pretty much checked off, pencil whipping it, and just trying to get you out the door because there's 100 guys right behind you that need to get checked out for the day. So everybody had to get done in one day. There wasn't enough time to do it the next day or the whole week. Which there was time, because now we're going to a motor pool and either twiddling our thumbs and trying to find busy work.
Standing around.
Or moving
standing around
batteries
doing
from
nothing.
one Connex to another and then probably back.
Rearranging the trucks. Oh, well, we don't want the Hemmets over here. We want them over here. Move the LMTVs over there. It just looks better. It's just low to high. It looks real cool that way. And then next week we'll flip them back over, low to high.
Yeah.
Put the big ones in the middle. It makes a mountain. It looks really cool. So, all right, fellas, I got to get going. This was a pleasure.
Let's bring this thing to a head. I mean, we got 4 years ahead of us of some really meaningful federal legislation changes, protecting the sanctity of life, which is actually just one more point on that. Oddly enough, like all of these pro-choice people talking about the federal government taking away their ability to, get health care as women, right?
Right.
That is where there's just a gross misunderstanding of governmental purpose in the very beginning, right? Roe versus Wade was an absolute abortion in and of itself of the Constitution, and a gross overreach saying we guarantee that you can come and kill your unborn electively. That's where I'm so excited to see what God does to bless us by being faithful and protecting his creations. And I can't wait to see what happens here in the next 4 years. So
right.
Amen. Jesus the King.
Amen.
Sure is. Amen, fellas. All right. Thanks.
Appreciate you guys having me. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, Schnack.
Anytime.
You're awesome. You're awesome.
Love you guys.
Second time on. Love it.
Give my best to the families, please.
Absolutely.
Will do.
We love you.
All right. Yeah, I'm doing a 5K tomorrow, so
Hey.
You got it, buddy.
We'll be going out doing our thing. All right, fellas. You guys have a good night. Love you.
All right. Love you guys.
All right. Bye.
See ya.